Shh, Mark.
Hey, Paul.
How's it going?
Good, man. I was enjoying looking at this shiny cover.
That is very shiny. I
For
think I would
Scorched.
like that.
Yeah, it was the Paul edition.
Yes. The issue that he's showing you there is the foil edition of the Batman Catwoman Gotham War Scorched Earth. And we're going to talk about that right after this. So, before going any further, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you leave a comment so you let us know how we're doing. We are finishing up on the Gotham War. It is Gotham War. It is the second part of the bookends that we have. This is Gotham War Scorched Earth. Mine is not quite as shiny as his is.
Not quite.
Not quite. But it kind of wraps up. It wraps up the Gotham War, but it also kind of sets it. There are definitely some things that will come out of it because Gotham City itself is changed by the end of this
Yeah.
particular story. So, written by Chip Zdarsky and Teenie Howard, the two people, the Batman and the Catwoman writers that have been writing their individual series. So this kind of wraps it up for them as well. But I thought it was a really good issue and a pretty good little kind of series within a series too.
It was a great finale. Like, there's no beating around the bush. This was good wrap up. Like, this was a pretty like par for the course event. I feel wrong calling it an event. It was just a crossover. It was a Batman and Catwoman crossover, but it was solid. I feel like it was played a little bit above par for pretty much all of it, and kind of dipped with the Red Hood stuff that was just unnecessary. But this finale was great. It felt like a finale. It felt grand. We had tons of characters in there. It wrapped everything up, and then it set us in the direction of what comes next and got me excited for that. So it was proper in all sorts of ways.
Yes, we will talk about the three giant elephants in the room a little bit later. But we start off with Tim Drake. He is basically all alone fighting against a multitude of Batman rogues. Let me move that around so
All
you
souped
can.
up with stuff out of the Batcave, have you?
Yeah. So
You got the Mad Hatter
We got
with
Two
you.
Face, we got Scarecrow, we got the ventriloquist who we don't see enough. We have Firefly, we have the Mad Hatter, we have Professor Pig, and of course Two Face.
And
So
Black Mask.
and Black Mask, yes, sorry,
Wearing
yes, Black Mask.
Thomas Wayne's
Yeah.
gear.
Mhm. They managed to catch Tim because when what he originally thinks is just some ice or something actually turns out to be a cocoon, and so he kind of gets stuck in all the kind of the sticky stuff of the cocoon, and so it's only him against the eight of them, so they kind of overpower him. But then we go back to Batman, who is still with Selina and Jason. Um, Jason basically says as though he thinks that he's getting over whatever the problem was. He's kind of working through it. He still kind of has some
Gotta keep his
trepidation.
adrenaline down.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and we have basically we find out that the reason why the green meteor or whatever, why it seemed to be all in Gotham was because it seemed to be drawn to the largest piece, which Batman had in the Batcave, but
Which
is no longer
explains
there.
which explains why Vandal bought out the property from him, and which sparked the conversation where they're just ragging on Batman for losing the legal property of Wayne Manor, and like kind of urging him to do something about the Zur personality that's clearly poisoning him. I did think it was a little goofy how they went into the whole description about the bacteria that's in
Mhm.
the meteorite and likened it to the cat stuff. I'm like, that was unnecessary, but
Exactly. Yeah, you know what? They always they always try to find something new with cats, and it's like so yeah, it was this parasite that they
yeah,
causes people to be unafraid of cats or something like that, or
yeah. And they're
causes
liking the meteor being brought back to the biggest piece by a parasitic organism almost in the meteor that are just people subconsciously to bring it back or something. Like
right.
it isn't like the meteors rolled there themselves; they were brought to Gotham. Like that was kind of unnecessary.
So
Hmm.
their meeting is interrupted by Oracle, who tells them that the Rogues Gallery has Tim, and so what Batman does is he tells all of his family to go and rescue Tim, and he'll go and take on Vandal Savage by himself. And so we then and Selena is off to do her own thing. And she goes and she tries to stop some of the people who she thinks are going to be stealing some more of those green meteorites, and the first people that she doesn't have any. The first people that she stops. Um, so we go back to the Batcave, and uh, Batman has this again this dialogue with Zur-En-Ah. Um, so and we find out that he's able to track um, the Vandal Savage because there is radiation that is left whenever someone leaves with this or whatever, and so they managed to track him to the observatory. I believe is where they track him
Which I
to.
like the reason behind that too. Like he's
Right.
like you can take the man out of the cave, but you can't take the caveman out of the man. Vandal Savage being a caveman, he couldn't help but just grab the big piece of meteorite and walk through the house and breaking and knocking everything
Right.
over on his way. Like yes, Savage. But yeah, they
Right.
track it down. They get a read on it. Batman's like, I'll do this alone, of course. And we cut back to mayhem in the streets of Gotham where the rogues are just destroying everything. And finally, backup arrives. And we actually get a phenomenal fight here between the Bat family and all the rogues that
Mhm.
is, I don't know, it's going 100 miles an hour.
Right. We find out a little bit later in the story that there is one more um, big surprise for everyone as part of this Gotham War, and that is that not only is there the green ore here currently in Gotham City, but there is another big green ore that's heading towards the city as well from
Real big one.
space.
Yeah, they're
Um,
at the observatory because they're using the technology there to tractor beam the meteor, another piece of the meteor out of space because they want to crash right there on top of them in Gotham. Vandal apparently didn't tell anyone about this
right,
plan because nobody else was on board. Like, yo, you're going to kill us all. He's like, I survived it. I can survive it again. It'll be fine. We'll be good. So,
right. He actually, basically turns on his daughter, who basically, was not aware of this, and it's really kind of all about Vandal.
shocker.
Um, and so they need to find a way to try to stop this. It's supposedly 1,000 foot long. It would wipe out an entire city if it happens to hit. So they need something to actually go and try to destroy it before it hits Earth. And they need a thermobaric bomb in order to do this. And the only one that they happen to have happens to be um, part of a experimental or a new plane that the Batman has, but has not used yet or has not perfected yet. And the only person who's there to fly it is Jason.
And he happily hops in and takes off without anyone asking him to. And when Oracle gets wind of this, you get that classic moment of like the person flying to utter doom. It gets confirmed like there's no autopilot. You got to get out of there. You can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And Jason's like, dude, you got to calm down. I got this. I'm trying to stay focused. I got to do this. I got to prove that you were wrong about me. And yeah, he just smashes right into the meteor. It was
Right.
a little sad.
It was sad.
I'm like, yeah,
Um,
I'm sad.
um,
Unfortunately,
but
it's chunks of the meteor. It breaks the meteor up, and like there are still chunks coming. So smaller debris lands right on top of them. A pretty significant size of the meteorite lands there, and Vandal Savage and Scandal are both there, saying it's like, oh, here we are. We succeeded, and they do recognize that it's not as big as what they were hoping for. And Vandal's like, let me go and see what I can siphon from it, and you can have what's left. And she's like, no way, homie, I've never siphoned any. I should go first. So he just stabs her. Doesn't even argue with her. He just stabs his daughter right in the gut. And his daughter, who is not immortal like he is,
Right.
just stabs her.
Right. And he says the words basically that he didn't get to where he's gotten so far by playing fair. Um, And so he goes and he goes to touch the meteor, and when he does that, it almost kind of like explodes again. And as it's exploding and everything's going on around him, Batman goes to save Scandal Savage, and Catwoman is there as well, and she basically starts to fall back. He tries to go to save her, but in this reminds me so much of the old Batman series with Adam West and Julie Newmar, and where she basically falls into the cavern. Um, you know, um, she falls back. Supposedly, she's gone, but we
Boom.
know how many lives cats have.
At
And as
least
soon
none.
as exactly, so as soon as Batman can then get to his knee after having seemingly lost Catwoman, Jason comes and puts his hand on Batman.
Yeah, you noticed him
In this
parachuting
opening.
in a couple pages earlier, right? Like
Yeah, 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 yeah,
they didn't
yeah.
even prolong his death. Like he blows up, you turn the page, he's parachuting in. Like, bro,
Hmm.
no suspense, no nothing. They're like,
Yeah,
yeah, he's fine.
yeah, exactly.
He
And
he probably took off his underwear, put him over his head, hit the meteor, and he
there
was
you go.
fine.
He's got that famous Batman underwear that solves everything. Um, and no big surprise too that before the end of this issue, we will also find out that Catwoman is alive as well.
Spoiler
Um,
alert.
Yeah, exactly. Because she manages to leave him a little, it almost looks like a thumb drive or something
Yeah.
that says, in case of an emergency.
Yeah, we do
Um,
get a little like cool off scene though between Dick Grayson and Bruce
mhm,
Wayne, like in their civvies, looking at the wreckage of the observatory, talking about like pretty much Batman saying, "I'm sorry I put y'all into this life. I'm sorry I drug y'all through this." And like, yo, we're grown ups at this point, man. We're making our own decisions. We're in this life because we want to be in this life. And he pretty much does what Batman famously does and goes off on his own and reminds Dick to at least give the rest of the family the chance to walk away from this if they want to. And Dick's like, bro, like Zuranow's got you twisted.
mhm,
And you get this one great panel where he's like, it's not Zur. And there's just a Zur bubble that says, it's not me.
mhm, exactly.
That's awesome. I'm loving
Yeah.
the Zur stuff. I really am.
Yeah. So then we flash to another scene with Batman in his temporary headquarters or wherever I guess where he is.
Yeah, which this was an
And
important scene too, because we do need
yeah.
to preface. We haven't. It was what the Alpha issue when the
Mhm,
Riddler first like sent him a cryptid message, like laying out like what was going on with the henchmen and the villains, like Riddler cluing him in, and people like using that against Batman, like, yo, you're working with the Riddler now, and him saying no, he just had information that was useful to me. So now they're bringing this back up. So that was good, like bookending right here, like with the
yep.
story.
Exactly. And so, he gives some riddles, whatever, that Batman obviously is able to solve pretty quickly. But then he says he has one more. He says that there's, the Joker is still out there. And then he gives this riddle, a cat scratch of a number, what is it? And it's, of course, the Roman numeral 3 because, the scratch or whatever. Um, so Batman interrupts him and says, if you're going to tell me there's 3 Jokers, I already know, basically.
Yes.
But it was so thrilled to see this concept brought back up here in this issue.
Yeah, this was huge because, like Paul mentioned to me in a conversation, this is our first mention of it outside of Black Label since the original years ago when they brought it up. Black Label obviously was in continuity, but it's not the same as seeing it in the pages of your monthly title, as well as like the idea of bringing back the 3 Jokers to build off that story, knowing that what comes next is a Joker story arc. Chip Zdarsky's bringing the Joker into what comes next. And it's the first time that we've really seen him interacting with the Bat character since the Joker War.
Hmm.
And if they're already dropping stuff like that, like maybe DC's really back on their game. It reminds me of a time many moons ago when DC would build stuff up. They really reward their readers by doing stuff like mentioning that there. and then diving into it a year from now, just seeding stories. And it just has me really excited. And that made me think again, like this is becoming an onion now. If we're doing the Joker next, what about the Riddler?
Hmm.
What's he doing? What's his plan? What's his play? Is this all really just is that Chip's long game? Like if he stays on long enough, is it going to be a big Riddler event, which would be super dope? We had in recent times Joker, 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 Scarecrow,
Right.
Joker, and
Hmm.
now we've been kind of going through Chip stuff where he's just kind of doing these decent length, not too drawn out story arcs, but getting something huge with the Riddler would be really fun. It's been like since like the War of Jokes and Riddles, I think, since there's something significant with the Riddler.
Yeah, absolutely. And before that, you have to go all the way back to probably the New 52 to do what Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo did with him. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm all for that. I love the Riddler. I think he's a dope character. But one thing I did want to mention that we forgot to mention is um, at the end of before we got to the epilogue here is one thing that is established now is that there is now a huge, for lack of a better term, a brand new Lazarus pit underneath Gotham City, underneath the observatory. So now. There's a huge Lazarus pit in Gotham City, so we'll see, what that has to do with if anything, going in the future. I'm sure they'll make use of it somehow.
And what's important with that is now potentially the only known Lazarus pit because in recent times, all the other Lazarus pits got shut down and destroyed.
Right.
So
Exactly.
this meteor like that just like, oh, how are we going to move forward in DC Comics without any Lazarus pits? Well, get Bando to bring a meteor to Gotham. That's out.
There you go. And then we get one more scene at the very end, just a nondescript cat burglar, for lack of a better term, who was one of the people that was hired by Selena Kyle, but he basically ends up finding Batman's new hideout, whatever, and he basically we get the last frame where he says, he opens the door. And he sees Batman's cowl and all the Batman, the Batman stuff. And so he says, Bruce Wayne is Batman. So now there is another person who knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman out there. And we'll see, what they do with that, if anything. Um, and that's kind of where we left off. Like I said, we get the new coming out this week. It'll be on the store on the shelves either tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on when your comic shop puts it out. We'll have the brand new story arc with Chip Zdarsky and everything. So it's gonna roll right into the new Batman story. So
Big things happening with the Bat right now.
exactly,
Not to
exactly.
mention Rom V stuff.
Yes, yes. If you happen to watch at week's end last night, you'll know how much we liked the Ram V stuff.
Big
So
things happening with that title.
yes, exactly. So there'll be a Batman story. I mean, not that there's not anyway, but there will be probably for the most part, almost every single week you'll have either a detective or a Batman proper um, for the next couple of months because detective has gone bi-monthly. So
DC said we need some extra money, make more Batman.
exactly, we don't have enough Batman out there. Let's put some more on. So, but yeah, yeah, like you said, I mean, it really wasn't an event necessarily. It was kind of or it was maybe a sub event or something, or just kind of a Catwoman Batman crossover. But um,
Crossover.
really, really liked it. I thought it was good. Our next big thing that we'll be doing is probably Beast War, but we have some weeks to go before we get to that. So
And we
we'll
have
be
plans for those weeks.
exactly. So we're not going away just until Beast War. We'll be here every Monday morning. So make sure you join us. But that's going to be it for this edition of DC Comics Deep Dive. I am Paul. He is Mark,
But we are Legion.
and you are now leaving Sector 2815.